This is the one where they're in 13th century China.
And meet Mongols and a Yeti.
They get kidnapped.
And go on a road trip to see the Kublai Khan.
Awesome.
And the Doctor stays off screen for a full 40 minutes.
Until he comes back to gamble their lives on a game of backgammon.
It's called Marco Polo.
Here we go.
We're embarking on a voyage all through time and all through space.
Encountering Dalek, Starla-Nude, and the Cybertronic race.
Sontarans look like taters, and Silurians all have wonky scales.
And the Doctor has a TARDIS, we're reviewing all his tales. Who back when? Reviewing all of who there is. Who back when?
Subscribe and rate on iTunes, please.
Episode by episode, we're trudging down this temporal road. Come join us on this odyssey. What other choice could there be than Who back when?
Who back when?
Hello, and welcome to episode 004 of Who Back When, a Doctor Who podcast. I am Ponkin.
I'm the Flaphammer. That's Flapjack and Jackhammer put together.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Neither of which I like. Anyway, to Doctor Who.
To Doctor Who. Today we are reviewing episode 4. Well, not episode. Hang on. I just want to make something very clear. I've said, or we've said, episode.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 so far. It's not episode. It's like story arc number 4.
Well, it's actually, well, it's probably the rack in which it was stored at the BBC. so it's like the fourth one from the left next to the door.
Yeah.
Which is known as Marco Polo collectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So shall we call them stories from now on?
Okay.
Stories comprised of episodes.
004.
Yeah, welcome to episode...
Wow, what a fun podcast. Nomenclature. Brilliant.
Okay, so today we are reviewing Story 004, Marco Polo, which is a 7-episode story arc.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those that they clearly had a big budget for. You know, we had the build-up to the Daleks episode, which was also a 7-episode story arc. So we're getting this one, Marco Polo, which looks like they spent a lot of money.
Really? Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, they really went to
wardrobe and on sets and everything.
Yeah,
right?
Visually stunning. And we don't get to see any of that.
No, basically, either out of negligence or incompetence, or who knows, the BBC has basically lost all of the video.
Yeah.
But they have still kept the audio.
Which is a variable quality, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's not ideal. But
and they have a few camera shots as well. Because they spent so much money on this that, the crew and stuff were taking pictures. That's why we have still images.
In fact, before we launch into the plot of this story, as we said, the video's gone, the audio's been retained, but this fantastically awesome nerd company called Loose Cannon Productions has essentially recreated the entire episode using still photos.
Yeah, and they look like they had about the same budget as us.
Yeah.
Which is basically, I mean, they are doing precisely what we did, really, except they've got the real actor.
They've actually got their hands on the dude who played Marco Polo.
Yeah, and they've top and tailed all the episodes with him, age 55.
Sitting in his kitchen in Croydon or wherever.
In a smoking jacket in Croydon.
Jacket? It's like a bathrobe. He's sitting there in a brown bathrobe.
All the curtains are drawn, and they expect us to believe that it's
outside, on the other side of those curtains are not double-glazed windows facing East Croydon, but in fact, the Grand Canal of Venice.
Yeah.
But it's fine. And he actually prefaces the entire story by saying that this is one of the episodes where during production they took the most photos ever.
Yeah, because the costumes were so amazing.
Exactly. They had invested so much money that they just wanted to immortalize the story.
And it's not surprising.
Ironically.
It's not surprising they invested so much money, because think about the episode before this, which you should totally check out, by the way.
Yeah. Well, no, you really shouldn't. It's shit.
You should check out our podcast.
Yeah, listen to our podcast. But
they spent £3, maybe 4.
I was going to say a tenner. But yeah.
No, in old money.
Oh, in old money, you're right.
3, maybe £4. And that was just hiring the actors for an hour.
Yeah.
So on this one, though,
they've gone all out. Sadly, the video's gone. Yeah. So if at any point we express a certain uncertainty, a certain lack of clarity as to what actually goes on screen, it's because we have no screen to watch this on.
Yeah.
We're looking at still photos.
Yeah, I actually listened to this as a radio episode.
Yeah.
I looked at very few of the still images. I had headphones in and was just, having a very good time.
Fair enough. I actually spent the 2.5 hours or whatever it is watching still images, but it is a fantastic story. And I really, I'm sad that we can't get to see it. Anyway, shall we launch into the story itself?
Yeah, let's begin.
Okie dokie.
After 15 minutes, yeah.
Do you wanna start it off?
Where to begin? Well,
how about episode 1, The Roof of the World?
Okay, so basically the TARDIS turns up and they don't know where they are. Like, they're out in the middle of the desert. That's not the desert.
Well,
it's like...
shortly before then, we get to see the dude sitting in Croydon. I think this is a recreation of how the episode started.
All right, I don't.
And you don't.
I think that this cheap-ass production company, like...
Dude, Loose Cannon is awesome.
They just wanted to add a little bit of, like, extra bonus material, so they could add an extra 50p to the, like, VHS. VHS video.
The Betamax.
It's like, oh yeah, I'm sure Marco Polo doesn't get any work anymore, so let's just like hire him. We'll probably do it for free. Let's just go to his flat in Croydon. I'm discounting it.
Okay, fair enough. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so he sits at his kitchen table, in Venice in 1324, according to whatever, and he writes in his journal of how he met 4 people in a strange caravan, as he puts it, back in 1289 on the plain of Pamir.
Okay.
To answer your question, where they are.
But also, like, he calls them 4 people in a strange caravan.
Yeah.
Like, we're about to watch 2.5 hours of Marco Polo, in which the Doctor and Ian explain to him many times that it's not a caravan.
Yeah.
It's actually a flying, time-travelling box. And he's still, even in posterity, calling it a caravan.
This is 30 years later. And
so he forgot?
Yeah. 30 years later, he's gone completely loopy and,
is wearing a smoking jacket and lives in Croydon. Yeah.
Bathrobe, yes. So anyway, yeah, go on. They're in the snow.
Yeah, so they're in the snow. Basically, Susan walks outside and she sees a rather large footprint.
Yeah.
Which she thinks is caused, like, quite reasonably, thinks it's caused by a large creature.
Well, she says a giant.
Yeah, a giant. And then gets laughed at by Ian.
Yeah, and the Doctor, everyone, they don't believe it, as per usual, because a girl has said this.
It must not be true. Unless a man's there to confirm it, like, there's absolutely no way it happened.
Yeah. Ian even says that, it's very possible that, like, the sun melted the edges of a regular footprint.
Yeah, and doubled it in size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the Doctor is inside the TARDIS. He comes out holding some sort of burnt circuitry and says, everything's fried.
Yeah, and we're all going to freeze to death.
Yeah, the lights have gone out. There's no heating. There's no water, whatever. Like, we're all going to freeze to death. In fact, he, like, screams it.
Yeah, and Ian and Barbara sum the whole thing up, discussing the Doctor isn't very reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, to say the least.
Yeah. Anyway, so Ian and Barbara, they decide, okay, we need fuel. So they head off to find fuel, which is like, wait, what? They're on a mountain somewhere. They've found a footprint. By the way, a footprint, not like a set of footprints or that lead somewhere, just one singular
like a
footprint.
Hopping monster.
Yeah. It's Bigfoot. It's not Big Feet.
It's a single Bigfoot. In fact, when you think about it, if an animal did only have 1 foot, like, it wouldn't look like a foot, would it? I mean, it would have to be much wider to support its body weight, especially at that size.
Yeah, unless it had, like, the longest legs ever. We're digressing.
Whatever. Yeah.
So they head off to find fuel. The Doctor's basically like, yeah, you go. We're going to freeze to death. Just go, whatever. And then they split up. Great idea.
Yeah. Well, that's always the idea. Like, in every episode so far. And it normally involves Barb going off on her own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is it's exactly the same trope as before. Like, Ian and Barbara are somewhere. If Barbara goes...
meaning the Daleks.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm referring very clearly to the Daleks. Like, Barbara just goes, I'm so tired, my feet ache. And Ian wisely suggests, you know what, just wait here. Just wait here on this mountaintop in the snow on your own. We've just seen a footprint. Someone's around clearly, right?
Yeah.
He must assume that it's a human being, right?
You'd think so, yeah.
Because he doesn't believe it's a Yeti or something. And just wait here and I'll go and do something, because clearly he doesn't give a shit. But then...
Yeah, the Yeti turns up.
The Yeti turns up.
And all of a sudden, everybody, obviously, they're seeing it with their own eyes.
No.
Leave.
Only Bob sees the Yeti.
Oh, only Bob sees
it turns up exactly where Ian left Bob.
Yeah.
Bob sees the Yeti. They have a little bit of a stare-off. Barbara screams, runs away. The Yeti runs away, and then Ian returns only to not believe her.
Yeah, so that's interesting. 2 people have now seen the Yeti, and Ian still doesn't believe them. I mean, they are both women.
Wait, no. No. Only one person has actually seen the Yeti, but everyone has seen a footprint.
Evidence of the Yeti.
Yeah, and at this point, Ian looks at the footprints, because now there are actual footprints.
Yeah.
Plural. And just goes, yeah, maybe this is something. But, whatever. The Doctor, however, doesn't believe her.
No.
Yeah.
Well, Doc doesn't believe anyone, except Ian.
Yeah.
Like the only other man of the group.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then, all of a sudden, because Ian and Barbara, we're just hopping back and forth here, but like Ian and Barbara go back to the Doctor and Susan. Mm-hmm. Doctor doesn't believe her, thinks she's completely full of nonsense. And then, after a mini tirade about how unpredictable and unreliable she is as a woman, the Yeti actually does turn up.
Yeah.
And instead of going into the TARDIS to hide or seek shelter, the Doctor just locks the TARDIS and they all run away.
Yeah. As we discussed, so this Yeti never comes back.
No,
we never see the Yeti.
This is the second and last time we see the Yeti over a 7-episode arc, and no one even mentions it.
Yeah, and at this point, we haven't been told where we are in space-time.
No.
So, it's quite conceivable. They're on an alien planet, and there's a weird big creature.
Yeah.
But we do subsequently find out we're actually on Earth.
Yeah, we're on Earth, and there are Mongols.
Yeah, and there are Mongols everywhere. And, why is there a Yeti?
Well,
why doesn't anybody question, that's good proof that Yetis did exist once upon a time. We've gone back in time, we've seen a real bona fide Yeti.
Yeah.
Nobody actually ever mentions it.
Yeah, I know. It is also... Okay, 2 things, just before we go on with the plot. Number 1, after everyone has seen the Yeti, there's no mention of, you know what, Bob? You were right.
No one
says this. It's just oh wait, the woman was right, let's never talk about this again.
We've been down this road before with the Doctor. I mean, even in episode 3, when Barb storms off because nobody will listen to her.
Yeah.
When the Doctor comes back, he never actually apologises to her. He just gives her a coat.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody ever apologises to Barb or Susan for, the things they say, that they've seen with their own eyes. It's not like they've come up with, some half-baked theory.
Yeah.
They've seen something.
Yeah.
They've, been touched on the shoulder.
Yeah, and as we'll find out later on in this episode, if they see something, no one believes them, but if a man confirms it later on, literally seconds later, then the Doctor has no problem believing him.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, anyway, story.
Yeah. Oh, wait, hang on. Number 2 that I wanted to say is...
We're a minute in here.
Yeah, I know. Okay, but dude, number 2 is, when I was... Google image searching images of the Yeti to add it to whobackwhen.com, which you need to visit, I found that there is actually a later story arc, I believe with Pertwee, that deals solely with Yetis.
Okay.
We're going to meet them again, dude.
Oh, that's interesting. Are they the same Yetis?
No, they look very different.
And they're not 13th century Mongol Yetis?
No, they turn up in relative present-day England.
Okay. Anyway, let's introduce everybody to somebody who's going to become very important to this whole story, which is a guy called Tegana.
Yeah, so...
Would you like to lead off?
Okay, sure. So the troop hurries off to escape the Yeti, and they encounter a group of men led by Tegana. And these dudes they're all Mongols, but we'll find that out in a little moment. Ian explains to them in beautiful English that they're travellers and that they're looking for shelter. Tegana, however, responds in equally beautiful Oxford English. In fact, I've written down the quote. He says to his little fellowship, "Hear me, Mongols. In these parts live evil spirits who take our likeness to deceive us and lead us to our deaths."
Yeah.
And,
so he believes that the Doctor and everybody else is an evil spirit.
Exactly.
And everybody goes along with this.
Well, yeah, basically they're ready to kill everyone, but this European dude appears behind them and commands Tegana, in fact, in the name of Kublai Khan.
Yeah.
That they are to be spared. They are not evil spirits, they are actual human beings.
Yeah.
And it turns out this dude is Marco Polo. They're spared, they join the troop, and they walk off, head to a nearby tent where this girl is preparing soup. I think that might have been Ping Cho, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll get to Ping Cho.
We'll introduce Ping Cho when she comes.
And at this point, Ian starts explaining physics to Marco Polo, because Marco Polo thinks that, what was it? Yeah, he couldn't light a fire or something. And he goes, it is too cold to light a fire. And Ian's like, oh, no, it all has to do with air pressure and altitude, my dear.
Yeah, Marco Polo basically believes that if the air's cold, you can't make fire, which doesn't really suit who Marco Polo is meant to be. I mean, he's a great explorer. He is the guy who managed to traverse his way across Asia.
Allegedly.
Well, allegedly, whatever. But, okay, he does do a lot of travelling.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not like he's never been up a mountain before.
Yeah, exactly.
And up mountains, that's where you really need fire most.
Yeah, precisely. I'm sure he has made a fire at some point, quite high up.
Yeah, but clearly he hasn't. Well, because he's basically saying it's completely impossible to make fire.
Yeah. In this temperature.
In this temperature.
Yeah.
And he also shows further ignorance of fire making further down the road. We will get to it.
We'll get to that as well, yeah.
But he basically thinks he's seen a burning stone.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the burning stone, because that little piece of dialogue, which actually we should almost soundbite, because it's fucking priceless. Anyway, so Ian explains physics to Marco Polo, and Barbara asks Marco Polo, are you Marco Polo? And Marco Polo just goes, yes, I am. It expresses no surprise whatsoever that this strange lady recognizes him, knows who he is.
Well, Marco Polo, to be fair, was probably quite famous in his own time, so, maybe he's not that surprised that words got around.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of thing.
I guess, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, everyone's introduced to Marco Polo. The Doc, in fact, introduces everyone to Marco Polo, and, in fact, he introduces Ian as Ian Charlton. At which point Ian just goes...
Do you have a theory as to why he's doing that? Because the Doctor does know perfectly well that Ian's name is Chesterton. He's called him Chesterton hundreds of times.
Yeah, he is also...
He actually never calls him Ian. He always calls him Chesterton when referring to him.
That's true, but he has also, on previous occasions, referred to him incorrectly. And I think...
Is that a piss take?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a little bit... In fact, what it reminds me of is, in Yes, Prime Minister? Or in Yes, Minister?
Yes, Minister, yeah.
In later
yes,
series,
Prime
it is
Minister,
Yes, Prime Minister.
Okay, the reboot's Yes, Prime Minister.
He always goes, what? Mm-hmm. He knows everyone's name, but he always just calls them what.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Doctor calling Chesterton Charlton is an equivalent of that.
I think it's, kind of like that. Basically, this guy doesn't matter. Who cares what his name is? Yeah, it's like,
oh, you foolish biped.
Yeah, it's like Charlton or something.
Whatever. So anyway, Marco Polo is travelling to Chengdu in modern-day China, and basically the group all tag along with him.
Yeah, Marco Polo, he emerges, is going to visit the Kublai Khan.
Yeah.
He wants to gain favour with him, essentially.
Yeah.
Because he's such an important... I mean, if you don't know anything about the Kublai Khan, I didn't know that much.
I didn't know that much either.
I knew the name, but I didn't know very much. He's a very powerful, emperor, I guess. He's an administrator king.
Yeah.
He owns such a vast area of land. He's not like a warlord. He's a proper... administrative empire strategic coordinator.
Yeah, / goofy old guy, which we'll find out later on as well.
Yeah, but he's a proper guy.
Yeah, he's a dude that actually did exist at one point. And Marco Polo is essentially forced to stay within his empire.
Mm-hmm.
The Kublai Khan will not allow him to leave, so Marco Polo, trying to brown nose his way out of this, is travelling to see the Kublai Khan.
Yeah.
And also tells the group where they are and when they are, namely 1289, the plain of Pamir, aka the roof of the world.
Yeah.
This is where they meet Ping Cho.
Okay, so Ping Cho is this young girl that's travelling with them.
Yeah.
And it emerges, she's 16 years old, which is the same age as Susan, so naturally, being girls, they make friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have a little back and forth, Susan wants to know about this girl, Ping Cho, what's she up to kind of thing, and she's like, oh, my life's over, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm going to Kublai Khan's palace to be wed.
Yeah, and Susan's like, oh, what's so bad about that? And the girl says, I've never actually met the guy, I know very little about him. Susan's like, how bad can it be?
All I know about him is that he's very wealthy and successful.
And Susan's response to that is great.
Yeah, that's a very good start.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what she said. It's a very good start. But she basically tells her, like, it's fine to marry him because he's
even though you are 16 years old and this is an arranged marriage and you've never met the dude in question, it's fine.
Could be a rapist, could have one tooth. Who knows?
No, it's totally fine.
It's fine because he's important.
Yeah, exactly. Perfectly fine. But then Ping Cho reveals that he's also 75 years old, at which point Susan goes...
She's not so happy with. Yeah. So I can understand in historical context why it would be okay for Ping Cho to be marrying, like, an older guy, and that it's important that he's an important guy, because that's what marriage was in those days.
Yeah.
But Susan is, like, fully conditioned to 1963.
Yeah.
Why does she think it's okay? Like, it's almost like implying that she would be happy to marry a guy just because he was important, and nothing else about him would matter.
Well, actually, you know what? Susan has clearly also seen... she's clearly also seen the future. She's been to the past, she's been to the future, as in relative past to 1963.
Yeah, she knows about decimalisation.
Exactly, right? So she has seen a modern, possibly future British society.
Yeah.
But she is not offended by any kind of sexism in 1963, and she's not offended by any kind of sexism in 13th century China either.
But of course, when they made this in 1963, they only had visions of the future, like they didn't know what it was going to be like. So
flying cars and women can't work.
Yeah, basically. They must have thought in the 60s that in the future, like, women's status position was actually going to get worse rather than better.
If anything.
Yeah. Like, it had risen to its zenith in the 60s, and, like, you know, the law of nature was going to bring them back down to being just objects that were traded around by important men. So the prettier you were, the richer your husband, and, you know, that's the natural order of things.
Jesus Christ. Okay, well, alright, shall we go on?
Yeah, let's go on.
Okay, so Tegana, he is still convinced that they're these evil mountain spirits.
Yeah.
And
it's established Tegana's a bit of an arsehole.
He's a lot of an arsehole. And he tries to, essentially appeal to Marco Polo that, no, seriously, these people, they should die, and we should have killed them when we had a chance.
Yeah.
And he, as further evidence of the fact that they are evil spirits, he points out the carriage they travel in has no wheels. And Marco Polo has shown the TARDIS. Yeah. Very fair point. Marco Polo has shown the TARDIS at this point, and I'm assuming this is where he starts to get a bit of an interest in the TARDIS. As we'll later find out, he's going to be very interested in the TARDIS.
But Marco Polo is a smart guy. Like, he's introduced as a cultured European gentleman.
Yeah.
So he thinks beyond just basic killing. You know, like, he's trying to turn things to his favour.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's interested.
As I pointed out earlier, he is basically the human equivalent of the Doctor, because he is quite clever, but he thinks first and foremost about himself.
Well, of course he does. I mean, to be fair, he's like being dictated to by the Kubla Khan.
Oh, no, dude, fair enough.
He wants to get home. Like, he wants to bring that pasta back to Italy. It's very important.
Yeah.
Like, where would the world be if Marco Polo had never made it home and didn't cut a deal with the TARDIS with the Kubla Khan?
Yeah,
like, what would have happened?
Yeah.
There'd have been no pasta.
Yeah, Italian, the Italian cuisine, we would have, and pizza.
Yeah.
Like, Italians would be famous for pizza rather than pizza and pasta.
I don't know, like, maybe they'd have invented a whole new dish. Like,
oh my god.
Yeah. In fact, maybe Italian cuisine would be better.
It would be enriched by the Doctor's lack of intervention. Anyway,
back to the story.
Alright, so Ping Cho is at this point making bean sprout soup for the Doctor, and refers to, I'm only saying this because she refers to Tegana as the cook.
Yeah.
And this is very strange to me because Tegana is like this warlord type guy.
Yeah.
Who's like clearly a warrior within their little mini tribe. Not like the chef.
Yeah,
but she refers to him as the cook.
Real men like to cook, you know.
Not in these days, because in these days you have a 16-year-old girl making you bean sprout soup. So like, why would you? Anyway, they have to continue on their little journey, and they strap the TARDIS to like a sled. Yeah,
so Marco Polo has already realised that the TARDIS is something a bit strange,
yeah.
That he might be able to use to his advantage at some point. So he aggrandises it, he commandeers it,
basically
puts it on a sled. Like, he hasn't told anyone he's commandeered it yet, but he has.
He clearly has. They put it on a sled and they head towards the town of Lop. And en route to this town, the Doctor, although at this point he knows how to repair the TARDIS, I think basically what he needed was water.
Yeah.
Right? Although at this point he has figured out how to repair the TARDIS, he's not allowed into it because they think that, well, either he'll escape or he's going to do some magic stuff that will kill everyone, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, they're not allowed into the TARDIS, but when they arrive in Lop, Susan, Barbara, and Ian have had a wardrobe change.
Well, isn't Susan wearing, like, proper Mongol clothing at this point? Or is that later?
I think that's later. I think that's later.
What the stills look like.
I think that's later. I think at this point...
Are they wearing English dress?
I think so.
Right. Okay.
I think it's later on, where, like, wardrobe change number 14, when all of a sudden they turn up in, like, Viet Cong outfits. But anyway, so they arrive in Lop. Doctor is still not allowed to repair the TARDIS, and Marco Polo explains about how he's stuck in the Kublai Khan's empire, and how he now intends to give him the TARDIS in exchange for his freedom.
Yeah.
So now it's official. He has stolen the TARDIS.
Yeah, he's stolen the TARDIS, but he's not a bad guy. Like, he's not presented as a bad guy. Like,
no, he's a desperate man.
Yeah, he's a desperate man, but it comes up now, I think, and like in future episodes in this story arc, that he cares for them. He doesn't want them to die. He's like, I feel really bad, stolen the TARDIS, but I don't want you to die. I'm not going to leave you out in the
fact, on numerous occasions, he even says, like, no. When I'm allowed to go home, you'll come with me to Venice, and you can build a new TARDIS and go home.
And because Ian has already told him he's from England, he's like, I'll get you back to England.
Yeah.
Like,
it'll take you longer on horseback, but it's fine. Like, I will get you there.
Yeah. Like, he's a reasonable person.
That's true.
And that is offset against the next little bit we hear from Tegana.
Yeah, because Tegana is
just a complete and utter bastard.
He's a shithole. He is eavesdropping on the whole conversation and decides, no, what he's going to do is he's going to take the TARDIS for himself and use it to, quote, bring the Kublai Khan to his knees. And in order to do so, he procures this little vial of poison in a very Romeo and Juliet-esque manner, as in from, like, the apothecary, and intends to poison everybody. Yeah. End of part 1.
Yeah. And from that, I kind of... and it does, again, go over the whole story arc. The Kublai Khan is represented as quite a good person. Like, as quite a reasonable person, I think.
Not really.
You don't want... Well, like, nobody wants to take him down. Like, he's doing quite a good job of governing his empire. And, like, he's offset against the ultimate evil guy, Tegana, who's trying to overthrow him. Like, wants to bring him to his knees.
Yeah.
Like, we're meant to be on the side of Kublai Khan.
Okay, basically, Kublai Khan is like the Senate, and Tegana is Senator Palpatine.
Right.
That's what this is. He wants to create the evil empire.
Okay, fine.
He wants the power of the Kublai Khan, but he wants it for evil. He doesn't want it for good or whatever, administrative purposes. However...
administrative purposes.
But Kublai Khan, I disagree with you. He's not super duper, like, oh, what a positive, cheerful,
he's not super duper
jolly
good,
guy. Because he has denied Marco Polo the right to return to his homeland.
Yeah, but
That's not cool.
But he's not totally unreasonable with Marco Polo. He doesn't, like, want to kill him or anything.
Like, no, like, he takes advantage of his knowledge and, like, entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I think, again, in quite a reasonable way. For me. Anyway,
fair enough.
Get on to that.
Dude, we need to continue. We've done 30 minutes so far, and we've only gotten to part 2.
22 minutes. Like, we've got through one episode.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, 30 minutes of the podcast. Yeah. Alright, so part 2, The Singing Sands. I think we can speed through this one, to be honest. Not that much happens.
It's just descriptive.
Yeah. So the TARDIS is now once again on a wagon. Not once again. It is now on a wagon drawn by donkey,
and they're traversing the Gobi Desert.
Yeah.
And at this point, we get a little bit of an idea of what everybody thinks of Marco Polo.
Yeah. Because like the Doctor doesn't like that his TARDIS is being commandeered. He doesn't like that they're not allowed to leave and that he's not allowed to repair his vehicle.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, Marco Polo just finds him ill-mannered.
Yeah, but he is quite understanding why I'd steal his thing.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah.
Like, I can see why he's ill-mannered, but he is ill-mannered towards me. And the others, he's like, well, they're all quite reasonable, which they are. And, like, I think Ian and Barbara do quite like him. I mean, let's put their situation in context. They've been kidnapped by the Doctor, taken back in time. Yeah. And they've met this really cool, cultured European gentleman who they know of and who is being quite nice to them, offering them shelter.
Yeah, I think it's all relative. I think they're going like, you know what? As far as kidnappers go, this one's better than the last one. That's the point of view.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, he cares for their lives. Marco Polo cares for their lives more than the Doctor does.
Yeah. Anyway, so he has a little bit of a game of chess with Ian, which is quite nice. And in the meantime, in the meantime, Susan takes some food to the doctor, returns it untouched, and is crying because of this, because the doctor clearly is not in a good mood. And this is the first indication we get of the doctor staying off screen.
Yeah.
Because from now on, we will basically not see the doctor for 40 minutes.
Yeah, and the theory we came up with, I came up with, was that William Hartnell was essentially unwell, but they had spent so much money on the production of these 7 episodes that they couldn't stop filming. They couldn't take a day out. Like, it would have just cost so much for the production team.
It's super possible that I think the writers...
This was probably only meant to be like a 5-part episode, but they were like, shit, we're going to have to string it out to wait for Hartnell to get better.
That's very possible.
So we get like an episode and a half without Hartnell. Which is why you say we can speed through it, because it's just, there's a lot of back and forth, establishing relationships, essentially.
Yeah, very much so. We also get to see how Tegana is a little bit of a pervert, because he eye-bangs Bob, while Barbara and Susan have a bit of a heart-to-heart.
Yeah, and later on he does actually, it is in a perverted way. He's looking at, what's her name? Ho Chung. What's the Chinese girl's name?
Po Ching.
Po Ching.
Ping Cho.
Ping Cho.
Sorry.
Sorry, everyone. Cut that. Ping Cho and Susan are like together, like having a little girl.
Oh my god, he pervs at them.
Over them.
He is a straight up paedophile.
Straight up paedophile.
Anyway, so Ian beats Marco Polo at chess, and then later on that night, Ping Cho and Susan notice Tegana skulking around, and they're a little bit suspicious what's going on. There's they can hear horses whinnying outside, and they basically just head out, even though a sandstorm is approaching.
And they get lost in that sandstorm.
Yeah, and at this point, after a while, Marco Polo, Ian, Barbara, not the doctor, they can't find Tegana, Ping Cho, or Susan.
Ching Po.
No, I misspelled that.
Right.
Yeah, it's Ping Cho. Sorry, guys, we're looking at notes here. So, Ping Cho and Susan. They can't find those 3. And
Ian wanted to go out and look for them in the sandstorm. Being the man he is.
Yeah.
He wanted to traverse the sandstorm, and Marco Polo convinced him it was a bad idea.
Yeah, it's too dangerous.
You'll be lost in 3 seconds.
Exactly. You're going to die, basically, if you go out. Yeah. The doctor, meanwhile, is just sleeping somewhere. He doesn't give a shit about anyone.
We haven't seen the doctor in, weeks.
And what follows is a 5-minute sequence of Ping Cho and Susan facing the singing sands, which is this sandstorm, and it's just this super loud howling. It goes on for 5 fucking minutes.
It's not just howling. It's it's the sound of a sandstorm with the BBC effects department overlaying voices of people laughing, demonically, the sands are alive.
Oh, totally. It sounds like ghosts are approaching.
Yeah.
But then after these 5 minutes of howling, Tegana turns up, and he's holding this gigantic dagger. And we think maybe he's gonna, skin them or, I don't know, perv on them some more. But, cut back to the tent, at which point Susan and Ping Cho, they just reappear. The doc is still asleep.
Yeah. So Marco Polo in the next morning is very upset with them, isn't he? You don't do anything without my say-so.
Exactly. How dare you go out and jeopardize your lives and whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But he does genuinely do it because he's like, oh, it's too dangerous. And you do get a little voiceover where he's like, did I make the right decision?
Yeah.
Should I take control of these people? He's wrestling with it.
He is, yeah. It's like an inner struggle for him. Susan does not believe that Tegana just went out for a walk. That is his excuse. He basically says, I was just out for a walk when I noticed the girls...
Having a smoke, you know.
I was outside having a smoke with my ginormous dagger. When I noticed the girls were sitting on, the sand hill, and I rescued them, but Susan has her suspicions. She thinks that he was up to no good. And then there's a little... I don't know, a little Mexican standoff between Tegana and Marco Polo. Marco Polo just kind of goes, why were you outside? And Tegana suddenly just pulls out his sword or his dagger. Marco Polo unsheathes his sword as well. And Tegana just kind of looks at him, smiles, sheathes his sword again, and walks away. And it's a little bit was he thinking of maybe decapitating Marco Polo then and there?
Well, we know that Tegana doesn't, he is a bad guy, but he needs Marco Polo. Marco Polo's like, got the power of the group.
I think he's just an opportunist. Later on, we're going to find out he's got like henchmen lurking in the shadows. Yeah, I think he's basically just waiting for them to be close enough to the henchmen so that he can
he'd be happy to kill Marco Polo, but then was not the time.
Exactly. In fact, that's why he smiles. In fact, he intended to poison everyone, but he basically just needs the group to carry the TARDIS somewhere.
Yeah. He's like his little internal monologue is basically, "I'll get him later."
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Tegana walks back outside and surreptitiously cuts open all of like these sacks of water that the troop has.
So nobody's got any water left but him.
Exactly. He empties the reserves, hides some water somewhere, and then we cut to Marco Polo and the others again. At this point, Ian is wearing an azure blouse, and Susan is sporting a racist Viet Cong outfit, including the hat thing, the white hat. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
But they're in a difficult situation. Like, they can't camp down, Marco Polo says, because bandits will approach them.
Exactly.
Especially if they go near an oasis. And now, of course, they need water because it's all been cut open.
Precisely.
So they're in a bit of a bind.
Yeah, and they figure it'll take them a few days, like 5 or 6 days, to get to an oasis. And if they go there, they will be attacked by bandits, but they have no choice. They're going to go anyway.
Yeah.
And the doc turns up for like a very brief, just for a moment, complains about there being no water, and then leaves. And Tegana, meanwhile, offers to go to the oasis and bring back water, sort of acting as though he were the hero of the story, even though clearly he's not, right? Oh, sorry, no, the doctor doesn't leave, he collapses.
No, he collapses from fatigue.
Yeah.
To be fair, he is an old man, falls down, breaks his hip.
Yeah.
Like,
well, he is dehydrated at this point, so he just kind of breaks down and, cut to the ending of the episode, which is Tegana at the oasis, which, by the way, was 5 or 6 days away.
Really?
They said very clearly it'll take us 5 or 6 days to get to the oasis.
Well, in reality, then, Tegana is a hero. Like, the fact that he brought back any water at all, like, he's not only is he one top hombre, but he's also a really good guy.
Well, I don't know.
It's a bit like cutting off your nose to spite your face, though, isn't it? To go and get the water after he's cut open all their water sacks.
Well, okay, well, I think there are two motives here. I think he goes there because his henchmen are... Like, the bandits by the oasis are actually his hench.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he...
Everyone seems to be his hench.
Yeah, exactly. And he goes there to kind of plot with them, I'm supposing.
Yeah, yeah.
But so, cut to the ending of the episode, which is Tegana by the oasis, drinking tons of water and, like, pouring it out into the sands, mocking Marco Polo, like, you're all thirsty, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
End of episode 2.
Yeah, so there's a really big problem with the water, and everybody becomes very suspicious of the Doctor because he's come up with a little plan of how to get some.
Yeah. This is part 3.
This is part
500 eyes, it's called.
Yeah. So basically, there's a bit of condensation going on. Is it inside?
It's inside the TARDIS. Yeah, he wakes up inside the TARDIS.
Yeah, and there's condensation building up on the walls, and the Doctor's like, "Well, let's collect it. That's a good way of making water."
Yeah, awesome.
But Marco Polo gets wind of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they bring him water. They're like, oh, or Susan does. She brings him water, right? And he goes, like, oh, check this out. We found this in the TARDIS.
Yeah, Marco Polo's really angered by this. He's like, you're holding back water from us, you bastard, you deserve to die.
Yeah.
And then we have like a little 5-minute mini episode where they explain how water works.
Yeah, like this is condensation. I have a question for you, Flappy.
Yeah.
Flaphammer. Earlier on, the Doc was not allowed inside the TARDIS to repair it.
Yeah.
But he was asleep inside the TARDIS the whole freaking time.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just fix it? Yeah, exactly.
I have no answer for you.
Plot hole. Yeah, anyway. So they drink the water in front of Marco Polo to, like, prove that they are actually...
And it's not poison water. They're
it's
not
perfectly
trying to kill
fine.
him.
Yeah,
like everything's cool.
Yeah, and then Tegana turns up again
and says that there are bandits everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Which there are, but they're all his.
Exactly. Yeah, but anyway, they don't know that, so they travel on, and they now get to the town of Tunhuang, where the TARDIS is set up in the courtyard, very nice, and Marco Polo, we now get a little, like, story time. Marco Polo explains that there is a cave nearby called the Cave of 500 Eyes, where the eyes of the so-called...
Hashashims.
Hashashims.
Who are, like, hashish traders.
Yeah,
basically.
hence the word. Hashashim.
By the way, we haven't talked about this at all. This is a fantastically educational episode.
Oh my god, it really is.
You find out so much about 13th century China.
And like the etymology of the word assassin, which Ian explains, it has its roots in the word Hashashim.
Yeah, I didn't know that,
I didn't. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I really hope that's true.
Yeah, I bet it's not. But it's, it's like an educational semi-children's show, and we are actually learning a lot.
And by the way, just looking at the photos of this town, for instance, Tunhuang, really looks like they went all out.
Yeah, and this is just one town.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is all we get to see is like one house Peking, and a courtyard, but still, right? Anyway, there are two things. One thing is, he tells them of this cave. For no reason, he just kind of says, there's this cave called the Cave of 500 Eyes.
Yeah, but I think the reason is that they want to teach us something.
I think the reason is because...
the BBC has said, throw something in there so the kids can,
I think it's just... I think it's basically just put in there as a motivation for Barbara later on to go to the cave.
Right.
But so that's number one. Number two is, and I didn't put this in my notes, we meet the fat, quote-unquote Chinese guy.
Oh, yeah.
So in Tunhuang...
That's not me doing a racist voice.
No,
that's an impression of him.
Doing a Chinese voice.
It's a white guy. And it's this
terrible. Fat, white guy, this guy who's clearly white, pretending to be Chinese...
Yeah.
In the most race, never. Okay, no, right. With the exception of the film adaptation of Breakfast at Tiffany's, I have never seen a white person make such a racist interpretation of what it is to act in the manner of a Far Eastern individual on film ever before. This is ridiculous.
It could have been worse. He could have been holding open his eyes with his fingers.
But he does all but that.
And offering them noodles.
But he is basically he has this little trading outpost or whatever in Tunhuang.
Yeah.
And Marco Polo says can you hold on to the TARDIS here for a while? Can you keep it in your stables or something?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yes, it's fine.
Oh yes, I hold it in nice place.
Yeah, let me show you to your quarters.
Yeah.
And then he takes them away. That's it. That's fat guy. He'll come back later on, but that's all we see of fat white dude for now. And
fat white Chinese dude.
So after Marco Polo tells them about the Cave of 500 Eyes, we then have this story time where Ping Cho tells them the story of the cave, which she tells...
It doesn't matter to anything.
It goes on for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Ping Cho starts telling the story of Alibaba.
To me, it sounded very much like she was saying...
Thieves.
Aladdin, yeah, but it's very clearly
the story about Alibaba and the 40 Thieves.
Yeah, I shit you not, dude. Seriously, do yourself a disfavor and re-listen to that part of the episode.
No.
Okay, anyway. So then we get to hear about the etymological history of the word hashashi, or assassins, which is the word hashashin. Thank you very much, Ian Charlton. Cut to the Cave of 500 Eyes, where Tegana, he enters the cave and he calls for this dude named Malik, who's one of his henchmen, right? And this Malik character just appears and shows him this hidden chamber inside the cave that's hidden behind some stalactites. And there, Malik, Tegana, and this third dude, whose name escapes me at the moment, they all talk about murdering everyone and stealing the TARDIS. That's basically it.
But first of all, they want to murder Barb.
Yeah, because
she's found them.
Well, yeah, she turns up in the cave, ventures deep into the cave and is basically captured by them.
Yeah.
And then the most wonderful thing happens.
Bad guys gamble to see who gets to kill Barb.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's the ultimate honour.
Meanwhile, at Tunhuang, not knowing where Barb is, the doc goes to this other guy, this Chinese dude named Chenchu, who's clearly a white guy, and asks him to lead him and Susan to the cave. And they go there, they bring Ping Cho along as well, and instead of looking for Barbara, the doctor just kind of stops and starts marvelling at all the minerals inside the cave. It's this is fantastic, it's all sparkly and nice.
But he's never cared about Barbara.
No, he doesn't give a shit about Barbara, but Susan actually...
But I think it's quite a nice thing for the doctor to stop and examine things. It's a bit like modern day Doctor in that, he is entranced by things he finds. So in the Daleks episode, instead of worrying worrying about Susan being groped from behind by a Thal. He's, examining soil samples. And,
well, that's true.
He is a doctor. He is a man of science.
That is true, and we're going to be treated to another flashback to Scarrow days in a little moment, because Susan reminds him that they're actually there to save Barbara. And they even find Barbara's handkerchief, so clearly she is somewhere in the cave.
Yeah, and I remembered this next bit well. Because Susan looks over and sees that there are people hiding behind the walls of the cave.
Yeah, well, essentially these 500 eyes, they're they're painted faces on the walls of the cave.
But they are actual people, and they are people looking at them. And
one set of eyes.
She sees the eyes moving.
Yeah, one set of eyes is moving.
Yeah, but she says to him, I've seen eyes moving, we're being watched, this is a really dangerous place. And he just says, you're so stupid.
Yeah, actually, hang on, wait, dude. That's the next part. Before we cut to episode 5, we cut back to, the Tunhuang headquarters, where Tegana has come to, because clearly there's a back door to this cave. And he's told by this dude, Chenshu, the guy who told the doctor and Susan where to find the cave, that the doctor has gone to the cave. And Tegana is seriously furious and just beats the shit out of Chenshu. Mm-hmm. But the episode closes, as you said, with the pair of eyes.
Yeah, with the pair of eyes. So the doctor doesn't believe her, of course. Because, nothing not verified by another man can be true.
Exactly. This is part 5, The Wall of Lies, by the way. Okay, yeah. Okay, wait. Hang on. Before we get to the doctor, we're still in Tunhuang headquarters. And Chenchu is now talking to Marco Polo and Ian and tells them everything. The doctor and Susan, they've gone to the cave, they think Barbara's in there, blah, 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 blah. He told Tegana, etc., etc. And Marco Polo and Ian, they also set off towards the cave. At which point we get to your favourite bit.
Yeah. Well, basically, it's just done outright, isn't it? So Susan's I'm seeing eyes. Everybody's saying to her, what an idiot she is.
Yeah.
Then Ian sees them. And then immediately the doctor says, oh yeah, of course, okay, that's really dangerous.
Yeah.
We should really do something about that, shouldn't we, Ian?
Exactly. Whereas just moments before, the doctor had said...
It must be your imagination, child. These eyes didn't move. It's corpse.
I saw them move, Grandfather. I swear I did.
Oh, rubbish, child.
Absolutely no apology to Susan whatsoever.
Nope.
No acknowledgement that, yes, she does have her own pair of eyes and can see things.
But wait, hang on. Wait. We're getting ahead of ourselves, because Tegana actually turns up in the cave again, denies that Barb is anywhere. He denies all knowledge of this. And then they hear that Ian is somewhere in the cave. They hear him shouting, which leads to what I, in my notes, have referred to as Shoutfest 1963, because we get 5 minutes of just them shouting, Ian, Barbara,
yeah,
Barbara.
I remember
5
that, because again,
minutes.
I wasn't watching the stills. All I could hear was that audio.
Yeah.
Barbara, yeah, and it just goes on forever, and I kind of drifted off, which is probably why I can't remember the previous bit.
That's fine. Anyway, so Ian, having subscribed to Shoutfest 1963, finds the rest of the gang, not Barbara yet. And then that's where Ian sees the eyes move as well. And he actually says, yeah, Susan was right. But the doctor still goes, oh, rubbish. And then, but then when Ian adds that he actually saw the eyes move.
Saw it himself.
Yeah. All of a sudden,
the doctor's boom. Holy shit, there are eyes in the wall. Why didn't somebody tell me about this? This is a real problem.
And Marco Polo, who's there as well now, he locates the hidden door. He opens the door just in the nick of time when one of the Mongol
henchmen... Mongol who won the game, the gambling game, to decide who was going to get the honour of killing Barb.
He's about to do so, but Marco Polo kills him, and they save Barbara, basically.
Yeah. Tegana's trying to deny the whole thing, obviously, and...
Yeah. So now, and in addition to denying his involvement, he is now arguing with Marco Polo, saying that the troop is not to be trusted.
Yeah, and he's still arguing the case that they're evil spirits.
Yeah.
Still at this point.
And Barbara, in trying to defend herself, says that no, she followed Tegana to the cave, and Tegana just flat out denies it.
Yeah, and obviously Marco Polo doesn't believe Barbara, being a woman. She's just gotten confused. She's gotten confused about what's going on. Yeah, maybe she saw Tegana, but it was completely harmless. Tegana has said so.
Yeah, weirdly he has in his mind a better or more of a reason to trust Tegana, who just 1 episode ago unsheathed his dagger in front of him.
Smiled menacingly.
Anyway, Marco Polo in the meantime...
It's probably a power thing, to be fair. Like, Tegana does seem... I mean, Tegana seems to control almost everyone in this episode. Like, he's a lot more powerful than Marco Polo.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, like, I don't know why everybody's yielding to Marco Polo, actually, because, like, Tegana's the one who seems to have control of all the henchmen.
Oh, totally. But hang on, wait. Whatever. So, in the meantime, Marco Polo, as a result of this whole little mini argument, tells Ping Cho, you are never to hang out with Susan again, right? Like, you are not allowed to see each other, you're not allowed to talk to her even. They travel further south.
Yeah, so the feeling is clearly mutual.
I think we need a soundbite very soon.
I think this, like, okay, so the Doctor says to Barbara and Ian,
"It's a pity there was any association at all. The Chinese child makes me nervous."
And also remarks, such a racist, and also remarks that Ping Cho has seen his TARDIS key, so he doesn't trust her, and
she has too much information.
Exactly. Now, contrary to Marco Polo's orders, Ping Cho and Susan, they're still kind of best buds, and they talk about being separated and like never being able to hang out together. In the meantime, Tegana is like full on perving on them.
Furiously masturbating in the corner.
He's just looking at them, going like, "Oh yes." Anyway, it's so gross, by the way. It doesn't matter. All right. Next morning.
What's her name? Po Ching.
Ping Cho.
Yeah, Ping Cho. Yeah. Like, she's completely distrustful of Tegana as well, and she realises that she can prove how he lied about the cave.
Yeah, how does he do that, though? Oh, yeah, actually, she talks to Marco Polo about this. How does she do it? She says something about, he mentioned something about...
Whatever it was foolproof. Like, she did actually have proper evidence. But again, because she...
It was something like... Tegana had said something in reference to what the entrance of the cave looked like, and if Tegana hadn't been to the cave, then he wouldn't have known that, or something to that effect.
Yeah. Like,
and Marco Polo's like, no, I don't believe you.
It's like very clear, bald-faced logic that she presents Marco Polo with. And he's just like, well, why should I trust you?
Yeah, you're just a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Whereas Tegana is this perfectly trustworthy character with a dagger.
Tegana's like this amazingly good warlord. Like, what's wrong with you?
By the way, Tegana still hasn't poisoned anyone.
No, Tegana actually hasn't done anything wrong at this point.
Not yet.
Just looked menacing.
But, so we cut to Tegana at this point. He's in a tea salon chatting with some white guy who's not pretending to be Chinese.
He's blonde.
He's actually just this blonde white dude in a Chinese... in a tea salon somewhere west of the Great Wall. And Tegana's like super angry that no one's dead yet.
Yeah, I guess Marco Polo wasn't the first European over there. There was this guy.
There was that dude. Also, by the way, Tegana, if you're so pissed off that they're not dead yet, why did you cut open the water sacks and not just pour your poison into them?
Well, and by the way...
That could have been so much easier. We could have just...
Question for you, Ponkin.
Yeah.
What would actually have happened to Tegana if he just upped and killed the whole group? Like, including Marco Polo? Like, how would anybody ever find out? Everybody's on Tegana's side. Everybody is, like, one of his henchmen. If he had just killed them all, we could have said, oh, Marco Polo fell off a cliff to,
Well, I think there are two things to consider. Number one is what would actually have happened. Number two is what Tegana thinks would have happened. I think Tegana would have been wise in his mind to kill everyone just by poisoning the water supplies rather than draining them.
Yeah.
Because in his mind, he can just take the key and fly away in the TARDIS, right? Whereas in real life, he would have poisoned everyone, survived himself, not been able to enter the TARDIS, and died in the Gobi Desert.
Yeah. Like, that's actually what would have happened. Yeah. But, like, as far as he knows, he has no need for Marco Polo. And, like, it's not like modern-day 21st century world where there are security cameras everywhere. Like, nobody would have known that he killed Marco Polo.
There's no Dalek CCTV.
Exactly. So, like, he wouldn't have gotten in trouble with the Kubla Khan for killing Marco Polo. Like, the Kubla Khan doesn't even like Marco Polo that much.
In fact, he doesn't even have to answer to the Kublai Khan at this point, because in his mind, he's going to take the TARDIS and kill the Kublai Khan.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, doesn't really matter. This is all academic, because at this point, with this white dude in the tea salon west of the Great Wall, Tegana is telling this said white dude that very same night he intends to kill the gods and then everyone else as well.
Yeah, and steal the TARDIS and take on the Kubla Khan.
Yeah, exactly. Fast forward to later on that night, Bob is Yeah, Bob is like watching as the Doctor sneaks past the guard to the TARDIS and actually enters it. And this, one might presume, is in order to repair it and just escape, basically. And immediately after he's entered the TARDIS, Tegana just turns up. And Barbara goes to find Ian and Susan to, like, get some help.
Yeah. So Tegana, of course, tells Marco Polo about this and that the Doctor is not to be trusted. He's back in the TARDIS. And Marco Polo, as you quite rightly pointed out, is a bit of an arsehole about this.
Yeah. Anyway, so then, after the arsehole moment...
Well, it's not just an arsehole moment. He reveals, like, the way he thinks. So, the Doctor's back in the TARDIS. Ian tries to make up an excuse for the Doctor, because, of course, Ian does know that the Doctor has broken back in.
Yeah, but this is so fucking dumb. Yeah. Ian, like, his stock plummeted in this scene,
absolutely.
For me. Like, they are all in the courtyard, right next to the TARDIS. The Doctor is inside the TARDIS. Tegana is claiming to Marco Polo that the Doctor is inside the TARDIS. Ian is denying this fact that he knows to be true.
Yeah.
And very foolishly says, you know what, dudes? I'll prove you wrong. Let's just wait here all night.
And actually thinking about it, because of that, Marco Polo isn't that much of a bastard. So Ian lied to him. And essentially, the next conversation they have, Marco Polo and Ian, is Marco Polo saying, it's not the fact that he's in the TARDIS. It's the fact that you so plainly lied to me.
Yeah,
that worries me.
Yeah, because
I can't trust you.
Yeah,
like,
and the reason he says this, and the reason he says this is because literally the second after Ian says to
my knowledge, he's definitely not in
there.
Let's
wait right here. Out. Yeah, the Doctor just turns up, comes out of the TARDIS, and Tegana, like, twists his arm and steals the TARDIS key. That's so fucking silly. Why didn't Ian just go, guys, it's totally wrong. Let's go to the other side of the camp because the Doctor's over there and lead them away from the TARDIS.
But you have this down as Marco Polo being a bastard.
No, not that scene. Not that scene.
So. Okay, where do you think he's a bastard?
Well, I think he's a bastard because he's stolen the TARDIS, but I think Ian is a moron for coming up with this rubbish idea.
Yes, okay, but...
Anyway, Marco Polo actually redeems himself quite a lot in the scene that follows because Tegana, after having stolen the key, basically goes, okay, we're going to kill everyone, takes his sword and prepares to kill everyone, but Marco Polo stops him. Yeah. He's like, no, we're keeping them. They're going to be alive. It's going to be fine. Mm-hmm. But this is now my key. This is now my TARDIS.
But Marco Polo still feels bad about stealing the TARDIS. I mean, he stole the TARDIS, and we're going to find this out very soon now. He stole the TARDIS because he needs to. He needs to curry favour with the Kubla Khan. He can't get home.
Yeah.
Like,
well, he's actually already said this, hasn't he?
He's already said that, yeah. Like, I don't think he's doing any bad thing. All he wants to do is transport the TARDIS. And the fact the Doctor's going in there is messing up his plans, and people are lying to him, and he's getting a bit worried. I don't think he's done anything wrong.
Okay, fine. Agree to disagree. But one fun thing to point out, nerds out there in podcast land, the Doctor adds that you need a lot more than just a key to open the TARDIS. He says you need knowledge as well.
I don't think that's true. So, like...
Doesn't he even allude to the fact that if you try to open the TARDIS and you're not the Doctor, then the TARDIS will self-destruct, basically?
Does he?
I'm pretty sure he says something like...
Is he just spinning a line there?
Oh, that's possible.
Because we have seen, even at this point, where we've only seen, like, 3 stories before this, we've seen other people open the TARDIS. Like, in fact, when Ian and Barbara first got into the TARDIS, they got in by themselves.
No, they didn't.
Didn't they?
No.
How did they get in?
Susan opened the door. She was inside the TARDIS, opens the door, and
yeah, that's true.
They go in.
But in, like, later Doctor Who, we see many other people open the door. Like, we see a lot of Doctor's companions, even, like, companions that the TARDIS didn't like.
Yeah.
Such as, what's her name? The most recent one. Oh, I've already forgotten.
I know. I've forgotten her name as well.
Jenna Louise Coleman.
Yeah, whatever her name is in the show.
The TARDIS doesn't like her, but it lets her in.
Yeah.
The Great Intelligence manages to get inside the TARDIS. Like, it's not impossible to broach the doors of the TARDIS.
So it is actually possible that he's lying because he wants the key for himself or something.
Yeah, and, like, the means by which the Doctor gets into the TARDIS do, like, vary over the years. I mean, like, there is at one point where River Song tells Matt Smith he doesn't even need a key.
Yeah, he just...
Remember that? He's just like,
he clicks his fingers.
The Doctor I know doesn't need a key to get in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, Tennant could just click his fingers and the doors would open.
It was Tennant.
Tennant clicked his fingers, TARDIS doors open. Anyway.
Whatever.
Back to Marco Polo.
I think it was a line he was spinning.
Fair enough. But Marco Polo now has the key, and he puts them in a separate tent where... as my notes will tell you, they can very conveniently conspire to escape.
Yes.
So they are in this tent, there's no guard, they're just in there, and the Doctor explains that while he was inside the TARDIS, he managed to completely repair the broken circuitry.
Yeah,
and
which was just a lack of water.
Yeah, essentially. And and Ian, in frustration, breaks a plate, which may seem erratic at this point, but will actually come into play momentarily. Now, the Doc has a plan. Yeah, the Doc has a plan, and it is... Yeah.
I don't actually remember. But for podcast purposes, I'll say it. Yeah, so the Doctor suggests that they kidnap Marco Polo. And Ian's response is...
Why not?
Yeah.
So he picks up like a plate shard off the floor and begins to cut his way out of the tent with it. And when he pops his head out, he sees a guard sitting at a significant distance with his back to the tent.
Yeah, and then he goes up to the guard, like, presumably to try and kill him.
Yeah.
Like this is...
Yeah, seriously.
Proper bloodthirsty.
Yeah, he tries to throttle him, doesn't he?
Well, he comes up behind him, doesn't he, like, hold him and then realise that the guard is already dead?
Exactly. End of part 4.
Yeah.
Cliffhanger. Part 5, Riders of the Shangtu. So part 5 starts with... White dude, blonde white guy. He's talking to some other bad guy. They're plotting, and
and Tegana is clearly implicated because it's a bad thing.
Oh, totally. At this point, by the way, if our commentary starts getting a little bit less descriptive, it's because at this point, from now on, all of my notes on this episode are in shorthand, because 5 episodes in, I've kind of lost patience.
Yeah, and it is, to be fair, quite difficult at times to discern what's going on just from the noises.
True, very true. But yeah, so white dude and bad guy, they're plotting, and the other good guys, they exit the tent, they see Tegana, and he's like lighting a torch, and Ian goes to Marco Polo, and basically tells him about the dead guard. And Marco Polo, at this point, assuming that Tegana is one of the good guys, tells him all about this, and starts distributing swords, essentially. The Doc gets a sword, everyone gets a sword, right? And after stumbling over a few lines, possible soundbite, we'll see.
Yes, get out of here, anywhere where it's safe.
Marco Polo basically just wants to stay and fight, not escape in the TARDIS, which is what the Doctor suggests.
Yeah, and like he would take Marco Polo with him.
Yeah.
Although I suppose that's like a bargain as much as anything. Like he's not doing it for Marco Polo's sake.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a way for him to get the TARDIS back.
He wants to get back in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
But Ian comes up with a very good suggestion, which is very reminiscent of what happened in the Cave of Skulls.
Yeah.
So if you remember, people, in the Cave of Skulls, they managed to escape from the cave's people by sticking old skulls on top of sticks and setting them on fire.
Yeah.
Obviously, this worked very well.
Yeah.
So Ian decides, let's do it again.
Yeah. Well, kind of. I didn't know this, but apparently if you set bamboo on fire, it explodes.
Well, apparently if you set bamboo on fire, it really scares bandits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he suggests, let's just light a fire, throw some bamboo on it, and when it goes off, the bandits are all going to run away. At which point he does so.
The bamboo explodes.
Yeah, Well, first there's like a proper fight. Like the bandits appear, and there's like a massive fight. Even the Doctor, with his sword, starts fencing with one. I don't think we've ever seen the Doctor fencing before.
Yeah, and he's classy.
He's he's a good guy.
Yeah, like he fences. Like he doesn't fight, he fences.
Oh yeah, no. It's quite gentlemanly in a way.
Yeah. But at this point, Tegana really proves his worth and his devotion to the cause by actually killing one of his co-conspirators.
Yeah, to, I guess, protect his secret identity as a bad guy.
Yeah, well, obviously they're going to trust him more if he starts killing bandits.
Yeah.
Like, why would you kill your friend? No,
exactly.
That bad.
And actually only the one bandit is killed in the entire fight. Yeah, when the bamboo explodes, everyone else runs away. And the following morning, when they bury the bandits, Barbara recognizes him as one of the henchmen from the cave.
Yes.
Yeah.
But of course, she's a woman, so nobody believes her little theory. Tegana's killed the guy, so that proves, beyond all doubt.
Yeah.
As
far as Marco Polo is concerned.
As far as Marco Polo is concerned.
Yeah.
Beyond all doubt, Tegana's safe.
Yeah. So in the meantime, he still has the TARDIS key. He hides it in his journal in front of Ping Cho, and Ping Cho promises not to tell anyone about the key, where it's hidden or whatever.
Okay, so at this point, this guy Ling Tao turns up, saying he's an emissary from the Kublai Khan.
Also clearly a white dude.
Also, well, almost everyone is very clearly a white dude.
Yeah.
But his message is that the Kublai Khan wants to see Marco Polo immediately.
Yeah.
So there's a big panic. Marco Polo's like, right, we've got to get to see this guy because he's so important. So they follow along a trade route to Chengting.
Yeah, this little town.
So this little town. And another clearly white guy, big fat guy, you know, the racist one we talked about earlier.
Yeah, in fact, just tiny little, like, parentheses. It's possible that we've mixed things up a little bit and that this is where the white fat guy turns up pretending to be a Chinese dude and not before.
I think he turns up twice.
Really?
I don't think we got it wrong.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah.
He says that he'll keep the TARDIS behind, like in his stables, so somewhere safe, which will make their journey to go and see the Kublai Khan much quicker because they hadn't got to carry the TARDIS along.
Exactly.
So, as we mentioned, Marco Polo told Ping Chow where he'd hidden the key to the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And Ping Chow doesn't want to betray...
Ping Cho.
Sorry. Ping Cho obviously is very good friends with Susan.
Yeah, and they're having like a little girly chit-chat in the garden.
Yeah, against everyone's advice, bad girls. Nobody wants them to talk, but they're still talking. And Ping Cho starts to feel really bad for Susan, because Susan makes it very apparent she can't get home without the TARDIS.
Yeah, exactly.
Which places her very much in a bind.
Yeah, it's a bit of a moral quandary for her. Yeah, shall she do what Marco Polo says, or shall she save her new best friend?
Yes, and she decides the latter. She's going to save her new best friend.
So we'll get to that.
We'll get there. Well, we are there, aren't we?
Well, yeah, more or less. But first, we've got Kuiju. So Tegana is elsewhere in whatever this place is called, Chengting.
Yeah.
Talking to Kuiju, who is... Shall I say it?
Yeah, go on.
Fine. He is the least trustworthy-looking person in the entire universe. He has an eye patch, a Weasley beard, and literally a monkey on his shoulder.
A non-metaphorical monkey on his shoulder. Yeah, this guy's bad from head to toe.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tegana's chatting to him and essentially pays him to steal the TARDIS.
At midnight.
Yeah. It's like comic book bad.
Oh, very bad.
Yeah. So Ping Cho, feeling bad for Susan, tells her, well, doesn't actually tell her, gives her the key to the TARDIS, steals it from Marco Polo's journal.
Yeah.
And gives Susan the key to the TARDIS.
Exactly. And the travellers all sneak off to the TARDIS.
But
once again.
Unfortunately, Tegana does intercept this.
Well, kind of. There's Ian has a brilliant plan on how to get into the TARDIS, because there's a guard outside in the courtyard. Wait, hang on. What? There's a guard outside the stables, that's what it is. And they need to get past the guard to get to the TARDIS.
Okay, yeah.
So he finds this jug of wine, stumbles out, pretending to be drunk. The guard sees him and goes, oh, you've got fire water, that's amazing.
Yeah. You're white man, you're so funny, yeah.
Yeah, and it's oh, you should have a drink. The guard drinks some wine, and Ian just basically Jason Statham's him. Totally...
Long story short, they slip past the guard. Yeah. And it looks like they're all about to escape.
Yeah, they're inside the TARDIS, in fact.
Yeah.
But however, they haven't noticed that Susan is not there.
Yeah.
Just in the very last moment, just as they're about to leave, whoever it is, I'm assuming Barbara, notices that Susan is gone.
Yeah, and we find out she hasn't made it because Tegana has manhandled her.
Yeah, and Susan very, very wisely decided, no, screw getting home and to my real timeline. Let's just go and say thank you to Ping Cho.
Yes.
Yeah, well done, Susan, because she gets apprehended by Tegana.
What a retard. Ping Cho's only desire was to allow Susan to escape, and she did everything within her power to make that happen.
Yeah,
she handed her the key and said, go now, because otherwise you're never going to make it.
Yeah, this could literally have been a 5-episode story arc had it not been for Susan being a complete nincompoop.
But as it turns out, Susan must turn around because she must say goodbye to her new BFF.
Totally.
Yeah.
Nice inclusion of BFF there. End of episode 5.
Well, and of course gets apprehended by Tegana.
Yeah, cut to episode 6, Mighty Kublai Khan.
Ooh.
So Ian goes back to find Susan and instead finds Tegana and Susan.
Yeah, and obviously Tegana is not letting Susan go.
Yeah, exactly. Barbara Doc appears as well. Marco Polo arrives as well, and they're like...
Yeah. Well, Marco Polo is essentially like, why the hell have you got the key? It's like, how did you get this? Ian tries to cover for Ching-Po.
Yeah.
Ching-Po?
Ping-Cho.
Ping-Cho. Ian tries to cover Ping-Cho and just like, oh, I found it in your study. And he's like, where did you find it?
Like, oh yeah, exactly, yeah. I found this.
Very quickly uncovers the fact that it can only have been Ping-Cho and that Ian's trying to cover for Ping-Cho.
Yeah, but before then, Tegana tries to kill everyone again. Well, and Marco Polo, once again...
Tegana's always trying to kill everyone.
Yeah, and once again, Marco Polo stops him from, like, just dagger murdering everyone. And, everyone's kind of like, oh no, like, oh, this is terrible. And Susan even goes like, oh, I'm so sorry that I went back and I ruined everything for everyone. And the Doctor, in a moment of just breaking character, says, as long as you're safe, Susan, that's all that matters. Which is bollocks. It's complete bollocks.
Well, he does, like Susan is the one person he kind of looks after. Like, she is the only one he ever cares about. Like, obviously he cares about himself most of all, but like,
it's not in keeping with this character. What he should have said, like, well, at least you're safe, but you know what? You ruined it for everyone else.
Well, you ruined it for me.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Fuck these guys, you ruined it for me. I've got my own problems.
So, once again, they head off. The TARDIS is still in Chengting, but they carry on along the fast track to Peking. They stop in another town.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ,
again. And at this point, everybody's getting quite frustrated, obviously.
Yeah, myself included, by the way.
Everyone. Like, they just want to go home. And Ian's like, right, I'm coming clean to Marco Polo, fuck it. Like, and explains time travel to him.
This doesn't really work. Like,
no, Marco Polo's not up for the concept of time travel. Which, fair enough, really. But, like, he's willing to accept that the TARDIS is a flying box.
Yeah, because birds can fly.
Because birds can fly. Why not a box?
And, oh my god, actually, you know what? We shouldn't have a soundbite. We need to reenact this tiny little piece of dialogue because it is so freaking good. Like, he says, oh, you know what? I once heard stories of a stone that burned, and when I saw that stone that burned, I could believe anything.
You mean coal?
No, we call it the burning stone.
So coal.
Yeah. Great little dialogue.
And like Ian tries to explain that that's not a burning stone, but he won't have it. Marco Polo just won't take on board the concept of time travel.
Exactly. Instead, however, he
thinks that Ian must be lying to him, and which is fair enough. Again, Ian has lied to him before.
He has, quite recently,
in
fact.
Well, he lied about the Doctor thing, and he lied about the key.
Yeah.
He lied about where he got the key, and he lied about the Doctor being inside the TARDIS.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So now Marco Polo finally figures out Ping-Cho must have stolen the key.
Tegana's right. They should just kill the whole troop.
Be done with the series.
They're not to be trusted.
This should be the Tegana show, not the Doctor Who show. So anyway, Marco Polo finally figures out Ping-Cho must have stolen the key, and Ping-Cho, realizing that, oh crap, she's been found out, leaves in the dead of night, and the following morning, no one can find her. Now, here's another plot hole, Flappy. This is now
it's not my fault.
No. This is the following morning, no one can find Ping-Cho, and Ian offers to go find her. Like, we cut back to the garden in Chengting, where Ping-Cho is, and she sees Kuiji arrive with fake papers claiming to be the Kublai Khan's
ambassador of
exactly
the Kublai Khan,
his emissary,
I need to get in the TARDIS,
and he's like to take the TARDIS away. But he was paid by Tegana to steal the TARDIS at midnight. So isn't this a breach of contract? Yeah, clearly
sloppy work,
sloppy henchman work, Kuiji.
Well, it just goes to show henchmen can't always be trusted. It's not necessarily a plot hole. Like it could just be realistic. Like he's just really lazy. Kuijo's just not up to the task.
Very possible.
Like he's just some guy that Tegana's found.
Maybe he was looking away with his like one good eye. Yeah.
Or maybe his monkey was distracting him. Who knows?
Very possible. Anyway, so Ping-Cho sees him.
Ping-Cho sees him.
I guess believes him that he is an emissary from the Kublai Khan. and actually pays him to tag along on his caravan. Now here, this to me is another demonstration of, according to story number 4, 16-year-old girls are complete morons, because she is trying to get away from the Kublai Khan and Marco Polo and everyone. In fact, as far away as possible. But instead of paying someone else to take her in the opposite direction, she pays the one guy she is completely convinced is going to take her straight to the place she doesn't want to go. Well done.
She panicked. What else can there be? She panicked.
I guess. So anyway, they leave. Fat guy pretending to be Chinese, Wang Lo, recognizes her just as Ian arrives.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Ian realises, the jig is up here.
Yeah, exactly.
He realises that the papers are fake and that the bloke isn't entirely kosher.
Yeah.
And this is completely ratified by the fact that the real emissary turns up.
Yeah, who is, if I'm not mistaken, an actual Chinese guy.
No. They found one. They have 1.3 billion to choose from, but...
And he arrives in a practically non-speaking role, like a walk-on pass. Great. So anyway, Marco Polo, meanwhile, further down the road, kind of assumes that Ian has just escaped.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he then tells Tegana, go and find Ian and Ping Cho and get them back at any cost. Yeah. And then we cut back to the garden.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Ian and Ping Cho have had a wardrobe change. Back in the garden, Ian has found Ping Cho, right? They're together. She's told him that, I paid this dude lots of money to take me
to the Kublai Khan.
Yeah, exactly. But he's already left and he's taken my money.
Yeah.
Because Kuju is a fucking awesome thief.
Yeah.
So he's taken her money and just left with it. Yeah. Well done.
So the TARDIS is gone, so they do all need to, try and find it.
Yeah. By the way, apologies, ladies and gentlemen, because the end of this episode has a lot of, back and forth between Chengting, or whatever the place is called, and some other place.
Yeah, but let's not go back and forth with the episode. Just give a general impression of what happens.
Well, I don't know, because there's a little bit that needs to be mentioned.
Okay. But the next most important thing is that Marco Polo actually sees the Kublai Khan.
Exactly. Like I said, back and forth. We're now at his, palace.
So the Kublai Khan, old dude, a bit doddery, a bit, he doesn't seem like that bad a guy, actually. He's asking reasonable questions.
Yeah, even though at first, everyone is super fearful of him.
Yeah.
And they bow down, but the Doctor refuses to bow.
Yeah, the Doctor will not bow to the Kublai Khan, which apparently is fine.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Because a moment later, the Kublai Khan's no, you're an old guy too. Let's be best friends.
Yeah.
And they end up, I jumped through the little pictures at this point, and it just cut to a picture of the Doctor and the Kublai Khan, arm in arm, holding each other up.
Yeah.
Saying, oh, isn't it fun being old? Isn't it hilarious how stupid these young people are?
Well, yeah, that does happen, but it does happen because the Doctor, having first refused to bow, is kind of made he's forced to bow. But when he tries to, his back cracks, and he's like, oh, I'm so old. And the Kublai Khan responds to this by oh, me too!
Yeah.
And then he
do you want to hang?
Yeah. And they
play a bit of backgammon?
They literally end up being best buds. And yeah, cut back to the garden, or back to Ian and Ping Cho. They've now found Kuiju and just jump him.
Yeah.
Totally jump him.
They get her money back.
Yeah.
And they confess the whole Tegana plan. So it's completely out in the open now. Tegana is trying to steal the TARDIS.
Yeah, Kuiju has confirmed it.
Yeah.
Tegana arrives with the sword, and Ian, practically takes Kuiju hostage and goes, take one step further, and I will kill your guy.
Yeah, and Tegana's well, fuck it. Just murder him. It's, I don't care.
He is of no consequence.
Well, he's just one of many, henchmen I have.
Yeah, exactly. Did you not see me murder one of my guys myself? I don't care if you murder another one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Have at her.
Yeah. End of part 6.
End of part 6.
Oh my god, thank god we are now at the final
We're
class.
at the final episode, The Assassin at Peking.
Ooh, exciting stuff. Ian and Tegana prep to fight, but Ling Tao, remember, the emissary from before, he arrives, kills Kuiju, and apprehends Ian and Ping Cho. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So Tegana tries to claim, like, to explain all of this, that it was actually Ping Cho and Ian who were trying to steal the TARDIS.
Yeah, exactly.
And that he's completely loyal to the Kublai Khan, despite everyone he's killed.
In fact, like, he foiled their plot to steal the TARDIS.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So they head off to Peking.
Yeah, where the Doctor and the Kublai Khan are having tea, playing backgammon, and are like the best of friends.
Yeah, laughing and joking around. And then, at that point, they decide to have a gamble.
Yeah. Actually, like, the Empress stops by the way. Yeah. The only other, like, female character of some authority stops by, only to be kind of a menacing bitch and disappear within 10 seconds.
Don't even remember her.
Well, she turns up.
Don't even remember her presence.
Well, I think she turns up, is kind of like, oh god, you old fools, always playing games and drinking tea. Then she leaves, and the Kublai Khan, like, complains about women. He's like, oh, you know what women are like.
Fancy little game. So, yeah, the Doctor's completely up for this. They have a little gamble with the TARDIS at stake on a game of backgammon.
Yeah, great idea. He's like, well, you know what? I would like the TARDIS back. Well, you can't have it. Well, let's play backgammon for it.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Doctor gets battered.
Yeah.
At the game of backgammon. Like, which, to be fair, like, the Doctor would normally win at games, but backgammon's like a game of chance, isn't it?
Yeah, it
like,
is.
You throw dice.
Exactly.
Like, there is some skill.
If it had been chess, he probably would have won.
Yeah, like, there is skill in backgammon, but, like, it is a game of chance, like, you have to roll the dice and lose.
Meanwhile, outside, Marco Polo is like, he's telling Susan
The
and
Doctor
Barbara
doesn't care that he loses, by the way.
No, he comes out, like, Marco Polo is outside with the women, telling them about the backgammon game. They think it's a spiffing idea. And he also mentions, like, that night is going to be the, like, wedding banquet for Ping Cho, at which point the Doctor arrives, says he lost, and laughs.
Yeah, presumably the Doctor thinks it's no big deal, because, as we know, the Doctor doesn't have any morals, so it doesn't matter whether he loses the game of backgammon or not. He's going to steal his TARDIS back, whatever the case.
Exactly.
So that's why he's laughing.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like, oh, I gave it a shot.
Yeah, well, this really powerful guy's been really nice to him, like, befriended him, like, done him a few favours, invited him in for tea, had a few games of backgammon, and now the Doctor's going to fuck him over.
Yeah. And just as we find out that night is going to be, like, Ping Cho's wedding is going to happen, the Empress turns up and explains that Ping Cho's 75-year-old, very successful and wealthy husband has died.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a consequence of having had a sip of a potion of the elixir of life, she says, which is a potion... She says he mixed quicksilver and sulfur, which
was surprised when he died.
Yeah. And apparently quicksilver and sulfur combined are, like, commonly known to be the elixir of life. Why the entire Mongol Empire isn't dead, I do not know.
They must have seen it work at one point. I think that's the only reasonable explanation. Like, he didn't even trial it out on one of the younger, less important men. Like, he was just like, oh yeah, brilliant, sulfur.
Yeah, sulfur and quicksilver. Everyone knows that's the elixir of life. Let's have some.
So that was a completely pointless character.
And by the way...
that's a loose end that just got tied up without there even being a middle.
Yeah, can I just point out...
I'm marrying this guy. 2 hours later, the guy's dead.
Yeah, can I just point out, this is wrapped up kind of in the form of a happy ending. Like, it's a very joyous conclusion to Ping Cho's fate.
Yeah.
Because, like... Oh, I was meant to marry this 75-year-old dude, even though I don't love him and he's, like, old and whatever. I've never met him.
Yeah.
And I'm 16 years old and I probably kind of want to live my life and maybe marry someone I'm actually in love with, rather than have her wedding be stopped by, like, let's say, the Doctor going, before I leave, please, or Marco Polo, like, appealing to the Kublai Khan, like, please,
or even the 75-year-old guy coming in, being really nice, and she's like, do you know what? If you don't want to get married, it's cool.
Yeah, instead of that happening,
they kill him.
He accidentally poisons himself because he's a complete moron, and that we are expected to agree with is a happy end.
Children's shows in the 60s were hardcore.
Yeah.
That's all
very
hardcore.
Yeah.
There's so much death.
Yeah.
And subterfuge. Anyway.
So at this point, the Kublai Khan, he finds out that Marco Polo was actually hoping to be freed in exchange for the TARDIS. And he, basically just goes oh, that was quite foolish of you. I would not have freed you.
Yeah.
You could have given me the TARDIS. I would have kept it. It's a really nice blue box, but, seriously, give me a break. You're my prisoner, buddy.
Yeah.
And Tegana, at the same time, decides, you know what, this is ridiculous. I wanted to steal the TARDIS. I haven't managed. The Kublai Khan has it. Yeah. I'm going to kill him.
Yeah, well, and Tegana, actually, to be fair, picks the worst possible moment to show his hand and try and start killing everyone.
Yeah.
He could have done it at any point in the mountains, in one of the little towns where he had all his henchmen, but no, he decides to do it in the Imperial Court with the Kublai Khan's henchmen standing around him. And he just, grabs out his knife and just tries to kill
Kublai instead Khan. He, kills his second-in-command. Some dude.
Who doesn't matter.
Yeah. No one cares about him.
Yeah.
And Marco Polo, who's been told by Susan and Barbara, I think, that Tegana's out to kill the Kublai Khan, storms in with his sword and has a massive sword fight with Tegana.
Yeah.
That we can only assume was wonderfully and beautifully choreographed.
I imagine the orchestration of that fight scene. Well, actually, if the one in the Cave of Skulls is anything to go by,
oh my god, you're so right.
Mercilessly beats. What was his name? The bad guy.
It was Cal and
Cal and Kumbum or whatever
it was.
Anyway, yeah, he drags his dead corpse across the floor and bashes his head in with a massive rock.
Yeah.
I imagine this fight scene was pretty gruesome.
Except he doesn't kill him. Instead, Tegana kills himself. He takes it...
Falls on his own sword.
Yeah, realizing that he's lost the game, he falls on his own sword and, basically Marco Polo, having the TARDIS key, realizes, you know what, I'm going to let them go. Gives the Doctor the key, they escape in the TARDIS.
Everybody's happy.
Yeah, and the episode ends with what?
Well, it ends with Marco Polo working out really well. Actually, the Khan forgives him and basically gives him his freedom anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also kind of a change of character, because a moment ago, he was saying, you know what, you could have given me the TARDIS, and I would not have set you free, but now that you've given it to someone else, I will.
Well, I guess he's kind of like a god. He can make his own decisions. And also, Marco Polo has killed Tegana for him.
Oh, actually, that's true. He saved his life.
He didn't so much save his life as, showed his complete loyalty.
Yeah. Because you know what? I take it back. You're totally right.
The Kublai Khan, could have defended himself with his other henchmen, but Marco Polo took it upon himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which showed total loyalty, and he gave him free passage back to Italy.
Yeah.
Which is why, and wrapping it up in a nice, neat little package, we have pasta.
Yeah. And also, equally bookending this episode, we're back in East Croydon with adult Marco Polo 30 years later, quote unquote, in his bathrobe saying, man, that was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. We basically
I wonder where they are now.
Yeah, we get about 2.5 minutes of going, nobody's going to believe this story. Man, it was crazy. But
they're all going to say it was written by some weird guy in Croydon.
Yeah, and I'm going to whack it in this journal, but nobody's ever going to find any evidence of this.
Yeah.
which explains the historical context. So,
it's beautiful.
It is quite beautiful in its way.
Yeah, end of episode 7 and of story number 4, Marco Polo.
Wow, some heavy stuff in there.
Oh my god, so much back and forth, so long and twisted a tale.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to review this thing?
Well, we obviously give our ratings and give little reviews. We normally go one by one. Do you want to go first or second?
I'll go second, dude.
You'll go second. I seem to usually go first, but that's
really?
fine.
I'm pretty sure we've done this, if you want... Dude, shut up. I will go first.
No,
I'll go first.
No.
I'll go first.
No. I'll go first.
Oh, I hate you. You're going to hold this against me. I know you're going to hold this against me.
Right.
Okay,
well,
fine.
You can go first next time.
Great. Thank you.
Basically, what I'd like to say about this episode is I think we should review it imagining that we had actually seen the video.
I agree.
Which is very hard to do. It's unfair to mark this down just because.
Yeah.
It was...
I don't intend to.
Honestly, it was quite hard to enjoy. Not being able to see what was going on. I could tell it was a wonderful episode, though.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at the stills, there were some wonderful costumes. The fight scenes were clearly very big, and there's a lot of subterfuge going on. It's quite complicated as a plot, but I think if we'd been able to see video, it would have been less complicated. It would have been more obvious what was going on. And as you can probably hear from our podcast, we went a little bit all over the place because it's hard not to.
It is really hard not to.
It's hard to say exactly what the sequencing was without actually seeing it.
Yeah.
But that said, I'm going to have to compare this to the other 7-episode story arc I saw, which was The Daleks.
The Daleks.
I think it's of a fairly similar standard, and probably this one had more budget spent on it.
Yep.
They went to more effort in terms of casting, in terms of the actual money they probably spent on staging this show.
Probably, yeah.
So I think I'm going to have to give it better than The Daleks.
Okay.
So I'm going to give it a 4.2.
Oh my god. Can I just say, I already had a number in my mind.
I gave the Daleks 4.1, which is why I'm going to give it 4.2 precisely. And I also think, back in those days, Doctor Who was meant to be a children's show, and this was meant to be partly educational.
Yeah.
And I think it is very educational. I learned quite a lot as a result of having to research for this podcast. I knew very little of the Kubla Khan, so obviously I had to Wikipedia him, and it was a rich learning experience for me.
That is the research of 2013. I had to Wikipedia the Kubla Khan.
I had to Wikipedia the Kubla Khan. Well, and also, it let me know a little bit more about Marco Polo. Because, everybody knows that little bit about Marco Polo, that he was a traveller, he went to China, and he brought back pasta.
But you had no idea he'd met the Doctor.
I had no idea he met the Doctor. I had no idea he engaged in fights. I had no idea I don't even know if it's true now, actually, if it's historically accurate, that he was trapped in China.
I don't know either. Actually, we should Wikipedia him as well.
We should look that up. But even so, I think it was a very rich journey, and I think this would have been a wonderful episode, and I think it's terribly sad that the video was lost.
Yeah.
But all the same, I'm going to give it a provisional 4.2. Maybe one day I'll see it. Maybe somebody will come up with actual raw footage. But yeah, I'd have to say, great show, wonderful job.
Nice.
Just very sad I didn't see more.
Okay. Well, I completely agree with you in this. In that, I don't want to mark this down for not having been able to see the video. However, I think I probably would have enjoyed it. I think I probably would have given it a higher mark had I seen it in video. So I'm not knowingly marking it down, but I'm not able to fully appreciate the splendor, the grandeur of this story. However, and it is unavoidable, you have to compare this to the Daleks at this point. We've had 3 episodes so far, one which is just exposition, and...
It was good exposition.
It was good exposition.
It built well.
Yeah, but it had, the worst peripheral characters ever. The caveman. I'm not interested in the caveman.
I thought you were talking about episode 1, which is purely exposition.
Oh, no, sorry. I made a mistake. That I tried to correct in the beginning of this podcast. Story number 1.
Story number
1, which had terrible peripheral characters compared to these. They didn't have peripheral characters that could plot, that could conspire and have ideas and lead the Doctor anywhere, right? You only had the caveman. In episode 3, you had no peripheral characters, so that really only leaves episode 2, the Daleks. You have bad guys, you have good guys, and you have the Travellers, and you have a very convoluted and long and twisting tale. And at the same and by the same token, we've got it here. However, there is, judging by the photos, there are no wall panels simulating extended corridors. Basically,
funny.
Yeah, but looking at the stills from this story, it looked like it could have been like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
You kind of imagine at this point, Doctor Who has built up a lot more popularity, so they probably do have more budget than they did when making the Daleks.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. You've got such a rich and complex story. All these tiny characters running around, all of them interconnected. I freaking love this story. There are a couple of things that I will mark it down for, though.
Okay.
Number 1, it pisses me off that we get to see a Yeti in the first 5 minutes of this 7-episode arc. We see a freaking Yeti.
Yeah, this story looked like it was going to take an entirely different tack, didn't it?
We see a Yeti after 5 minutes, and 2 hours and 50 minutes later, no one has even pointed out that they saw it. It's ridiculous. He could have gone. He could have...
That could have been the offering to the Kubla Khan.
Yeah,
I have a Yeti.
Yeah.
It's better than a TARDIS.
You don't want to free me with the TARDIS? Okay, fine. Dude, have this super furry guy, who apparently only has 1 foot. But
a hopping Yeti. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you have to mark it down for that, because that's this gaping plot hole. And there are a few other instances where it just seems like they threw in a last-minute Deus Ex Machina to kind of give some credence to the plot, to give some credence to the fact that they have to travel from the plane of Pamir to Peking.
But I think travelling is not a bad thing. I mean, this is...
No, travelling is a great...
It's called Marco Polo. I mean,
dude, I completely agree with you. I want there to be travelling. I want them to take this route to Peking. But I think that they could have motivated why they were taking this route a little bit better. And there are just so many instances where people are complete morons. So I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to mark it down for that. That's being said, just as with the Daleks, I'm giving this story a higher mark than you did. I'm giving this a 4.4, which is higher than I gave the Daleks, which was, I think, 4.3.
Right, okay.
So I'm giving this 4.4 because it is better than the Daleks. It is not as enjoyable as the Daleks just because of the video.
But that's not the episode.
Yeah, but the story is fantastic. I'm gonna have to give it some bonus points for, one-eyed dude with a monkey on his back.
Well, and I was also going to ask you, how did the racism affect the rating? Did it send it up or down?
You know what? It was freaking hilarious.
Yeah,
whilst watching this thing, obviously it is offensive, but it is hilarious that they got away with it.
Well, and we actually had an email exchange about the racism. While I was watching this, I was emailing Punkin. with little things that made me laugh. And yeah, as I said, it was like that old-fashioned, old-timey racism that your grandmother exhibited, but that wasn't really hurting anyone. It's just an ignorance of the wider world.
There were two kinds of hatred. Well, there were two kinds of racism. One was that kind of racism, exemplified by the Doctor, for instance, going "Oh, I don't trust that Chinese girl." And there's the other kind, which is the caricature. As in Wing Lang, whatever his name was, the fat white guy pretending to be Chinese who was talking like that the entire time. That's them trying to portray Chinese people as some sort of stereotypical caricature, which was incredibly racist.
But to be fair, it is a caricature of a 13th century Chinese person.
Wait, and that's better?
Well, somehow. To be fair to the people of Britain in 1963, they probably hadn't met many Chinese people.
Yeah, that's true.
So obviously they were a bit ignorant of what Chinese people were actually like.
Sure, I don't think that makes it any better, though.
I think it makes it more excusable. They were ignorant, but they were ignorant for a reason. Well, they had less knowledge to go around. Now, obviously, looking back as a modern-day observer, it's incredibly offensive.
Yeah.
But, I think if we'd been watching it at the time in the 60s, we'd have thought nothing of it.
No, I'm gonna say what I said before as well. In Breakfast at Tiffany's, the TV or the film adaptation, there's, her neighbour, who is, I can't remember who plays him, but some famous guy from back then. Uber clearly a white dude, portraying a Chinese person in a way that is, in fact, even more caricaturistic than Wang Lo in this one.
Yeah.
I mean, ridiculously racist. And if that was accepted by, relative present-day society, then surely 10 years earlier, when this was made, people would have thought nothing of it.
But go back another 10 years, and it was even worse. You had the blackface minstrels. That is infinitely more offensive than this.
I agree.
Al Jolson kind of characters. That's really bad. That can't even be shown on TV now. This episode could still be shown on TV, and people would understand the historical context. Whereas blackface minstrelry, no.
Agreed.
So, I
100% agree with you.
I don't think it's that bad.
Sure.
Basically, is how I feel about it.
Yeah, and for that reason, as I said, I'm not marking it down for it. In fact, I found it to be quite funny.
Yeah, me too.
But funny in the sense that, oh my god, I cannot believe they got away with this. It is hilarious to watch this fat white dude. And in fact, just looking at the credits list, everyone is a white dude except one Chinese guy who has
the walk-on part. Yeah. No speaking.
Ridiculous.
The real emissary. That was the only proper Chinese person that we have identified as being might even not be Chinese, just of the Orient.
Yeah, exactly. Far Eastern chap.
A Far Eastern chap, and he didn't have a speaking role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that concludes part 4, Marco Polo.
It was a long and winding journey, not only in the episode, but also for us.
Yeah, oh my god, I'm really, really pleased that the next episode, The Keys of Marinus, coming out sometime later this week, I expect.
Let's hope so.
Is perfectly intact. We can watch the video, and it will be slightly less convoluted, I think.
Yeah, but hopefully, listening to us was a little bit clearer than actually watching the still images. I doubt it somehow.
I doubt it. I think you're gonna...
Actually.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I think it might be funny anyway.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It had to be done. We're going through them episode by episode.
Episode by episode. We're trudging down that temporal road, people.
Yes, we are. So, shall we round it off?
Yeah, cool. Well, what can I say other than shamalama ding dong, people?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hate you for stealing... Not you, ladies and gentlemen. Clappy, I hate you. You keep stealing my catchphrases. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to go to whobackwhen.com, like us on Facebook, facebook.com/whobackwhen. Tweet us, whatever. I'm at Ponkin, you're at...
One Too Many Mornings.
Yeah, check the show notes. And,
Yeah, rock on, people.
Bye.
Who back when?